It's a Farm Friday. Let's talk New York Yankees.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, baseball writer for Sports Illustrated. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day, and you're going to love this. Today's episode is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Welcome to the world of trading cards reimagined. Stay tuned later in the show for more information on this awesome new tool for collectors. You're going to want to check out the Sports Card Investor app. Today, we are talking New York Yankees. Not only do they have what I believe is the number one team in baseball right now with the number one power hitter in Aaron Judge, they also have a pretty good farm system. And so lots of talent here. We're going to start in single A with the Tampa Tarpons in Tampa, Florida. A tarpon is a fish, if you were curious. 34 and 42 right now. And a couple guys here interesting worth talking about. The first one is Jasson Dominguez. So when he signed in 2019 as an international free agent, he was seen as like one of the best international prospects in recent history, if not ever. I mean, he was seen as a potential future superstar in making. So, signed in 2019, didn't get to debut in 2020 because there was no season. So it got pushed back into 2021. Started off in the Complex League, moved to Low A Tampa. So he was 18 years old in full season ball. Was in the Futures game last year. But the big change from when he signed to when he started to play was his body. So going in, like once he signed and getting ready for pro ball, he was double plus speed. He was a slender kind of speedier center fielder. And he's stockier now. 5'10", 210 is what's listed. I don't think the 210 is exactly accurate. He's slowed down. He's gone from double plus speed to more of average to above average. So you have to think about defensively, is he going to have to move from center field to a corner? And if he does, he can play right. The arm is good enough to move to right. Offensively, you saw him struggle a little bit, like most 18-year-olds in full season ball would, with dealing with spin, dealing with more experienced pitchers. His at-bats got better last season. You go into this year, still has very loud tools, still has the loud exit velo, still has the good arm and everything, but the plate discipline has not really improved. Striking out about 36% of the time in the Florida State League right now. And it's something where he's got very good power. His exit velo, like his average exit velo is just under 90 miles an hour. His maximum is like 111. I mean, he's got very good power metrics. He just isn't making enough contact to put them to use. Right now, 257, 368, 424, 8 home runs, 16 stolen bases, with the caveat of you have to understand when you're in something like a low A, the stolen base numbers are a little bit skewed because they have the pitch over restrictions and things like that. But what concerns me, 49 games in low A last year, 69 games in low A this year. The batting average is almost exactly the same. 258 last year, 257 this year. On base percentage, slightly better, maybe 22 points, 346 to 368. Slugging, 26 points better, 398 to 424. And I'm not 100% convinced that a 20-point difference in on-base percentage or slugging isn't just a standard deviation and just in essence, he's the exact same player he was last year, which obviously you want to see him get better as you go through the minors. You don't necessarily want him to be the exact same player he was. So home run numbers, 5 home runs in 49 games last year, 8 home runs in 69 this year. again, is running more. There are the restrictions on pickovers, but still something where he was considered the number one prospect in 20 and 21. He's fallen down to somewhere between 8 and 10. Still a lot of tools to like. Still a lot of polish that he has to put on. And he has the raw talent where at any given point, he can just, the switch could flip and he all of a sudden could go. But now we're kind of looking at the overall grade, I think, has come down a bit to a MLB regular versus an all-star and that kind of stuff. And still a lot of polish you got to put on Jasson Dominguez to be happy with him and how he does there. And so kind of frustrating for prospect folks because there was such promise. And I think the layoff hurt him in a couple ways. One, the physical development. Two, the lack of opportunities to hit against quality competition, get live at bats. You can do cage work, you can do tee stuff, but it's not it doesn't make up for not having in-game stuff to do. So something I want to see fixed. All right. Couple other guys there, but we've got to move on time-wise. High A, the Hudson Valley Renegades. One, love where they are. Fishkill, New York. City's name is Fishkill. Love it. I want to hear that story one day. 40 and 37 record this year. A couple different guys here that noteworthy of kind of talking about. Number 3 overall prospect, Everson Pereira. 263, 342, 424, 7 home runs, 15 stolen bases right now. And he's a guy that has really not played a lot. They had to add him to the rule to the 40-man roster. But 2019 only had 18 games because of a severely sprained ankle. And then 2020 did almost everything remotely, was not at the alternate site because he was a 2017 IFA. And so he finally got to do an instructs in the Dominican. But despite some of that, still has impressed somewhat. I think he's going to have to move from center field to a corner. He's got a strong arm. He's got average speed. I think he could play center. He could stick in center. I think he would be an above average corner outfielder. So somebody who you look at doing that. But offensively, great exit velos, really good bat speed, like high-end bat speed, has the right shape of his swing to keep the bat in, or keep the barrel of the zone for quite a while. Great power numbers, but, last year, High A Hudson Valley played 27 games, finished third on the team in 14 home runs. Like, legitimately has good power numbers, but swing and miss. The dude just swings and misses. 41% strikeout rate last year. This year, it's not much better, which, again, one of those things of tons of potential, kind of stalling a bit. He's played 68 games. He struck out 82 times and 260 at-bats. So, another guy who really hasn't gotten better from year to year. So, and again, small sample size in Hudson Valley last year, 27 games, but he batted 259, 354, 676. This year, 263, essentially the same batting average. 343 on base, 11 points lower, essentially the same. 425 slugging, so he struggled there. Strikeouts are just about the same kind of pace, maybe a tad bit better, but for the most part, it's something where Everson Pereira has tools, could be an impact offensive player. He just needs to make more consistent contact, command the strike zone a little better. You keep going through some of this here, and Trey Sweeney, number 7 prospect in the system, shortstop, 6'4", 200, 20th overall in 2021. And right now, 227, 310, 393, 8 home runs, 13 stolen bases. I like him. I think his speed is not necessarily outstanding, kind of average speed, but really instinctual player. Has good baseball IQ, And so because of that, I think his speed ends up playing at a plus. It's like on the stopwatch, it's probably average speed, but in games, it plays up like plus. Same thing, athleticism, he's average athleticism, not necessarily amazing athleticism, but baseball IQ is so good. I think he can be an up-the-middle defender. He could stick it short, may have to move to second, arm is good enough he could move to third. But offensively, very polished. I feel like he commands the strike zone well. He follows the mantra of hit strikes hard. He can drive pitches. Couple things you need to work out in his swing. It's a little too many pieces, a little too inconsistent. I think there's some things you can work out there. Once you do that, I think you're going to see his offensive results be a little more consistent, his exit velos be a little more consistent, and I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to contribute at the big league level eventually. One more guy, kind of lower in the system, but I want to mention him briefly because I like some of the stuff that he brings. Right-hand pitcher Yoendrys Gomez, like the 19th prospect in the system. But I want to bring him up because he's lost a lot of time. So obviously didn't get 2020, had a shoulder injury last year to start the year, so debuted, got 23 innings, then got COVID-19, then had to have elbow surgery. So we haven't seen a ton of him. He's thrown like 10 innings this season, coming back just recently. But from what we saw of him last year and some of the scouting reports from when he signed, arm is electric. Fastball averages 95, hits 99. Good vertical break to it. I like that. The slider, newer slider, mid-80s. Ton of that like big sweep that you're saying a lot of teams want from their sliders now. Changeup in the high 80s. I think if he could slow it down just a little bit, it's going to be a really effective third pitch. So 3 really good tools. I like all 3 of these pitches. I think he could be a really good player. You just need to see him play. He's been hurt. He had COVID. He had surgery and a shoulder injury. He just needs to get reps. So a guy I'm going to be watching from afar. Want to see him pitch well at high A, maybe towards the end of the year, get a chance to go to Double-A Somerset and see what he can do. And in just a minute, we'll get to Double-A Somerset and talk about some of that. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends, the Sports Card Investor app. It is the hobby's most powerful resource. You can check the value of your favorite cards, find great deals, and profit from the hobby you love. It's available completely free in the Google Play and Apple App Stores, and it's a must-have for baseball fans. So, if you want to look at breakout stars or prospects debuting, you can check the value and find good deals on their cards. So, if you're not a collector, but you're a fan of the prospect and you want some memorabilia, it's a great way to go in there and see some of the prices for some of the cards and some of the different options available for these players. If you are a sports card investor, or if you are a sports card fan, it's a good way to kind of track the value of some of these players and to see how the price tracks or doesn't track the prospect apparatus, the way that we evaluate these prospects and the rankings that we give these prospects. So I think it's a really cool tool. I've been really excited that they've joined the network, and I've had a lot of fun talking about trading cards and learning more about trading cards and kind of getting into some of this. So download the Sports Card Investor app today. It's available for free in the Google Play and Apple App Stores, or go to sportscardinvestor.com/locked on. So the Double-A Somerset Patriots, couple top prospects here. They're 47 and 30. They actually play in Bridgewater Township, New Jersey, again with these city names, Fishkill, Bridgewater Township. It's wild. But can't talk about Double-A Somerset without talking about number 1 prospect in the system, Anthony Volpe. 2019 first rounder out of high school. Obviously lost a bunch of time. 2019 had mono, lost 2020, and then last year kind of broke out. 294, 423, 604, 27 home runs, 33 stolen bases in 109 games. So did really well there. And this year, not as ridiculous stat lines. 247, 341, 449. Still really good. 11 home runs, 33 stolen bases in Double-A. And a guy that last time we talked about him, he was in the middle of a couple week stretch where he could not hit a slider. He has figured that out. He can hit sliders, had a little blip. And you see blips like that from young players, especially when they move up a level, or they get involved with some higher competition. And so that happened. But he has struck out, he strikes out less than once a game. 62 strikeouts in 70 games, 34 walks. So I like his plate discipline. I like how often he gets on. You kind of wish the power numbers were a little higher. 11 home runs in 70 games. We had 15 in 55 games last year in high A. But still, something where that's obviously going to come. And in the meantime, defensively, plays a good enough shortstop. There's questions about, is his arm going to be good enough for him to stay at short, or will he need to move to second? I think he's going to need to move to second because of Oswald Peraza, who we'll talk about in the Triple-A segment. But speed is enough where he can steal double-digit bases. He's not a blazer, but he can do well. And then scouts absolutely love his intangibles, his makeup, his instincts, obviously the skills, and just kind of like the leadership that he brings. So, big fan of what he does. Again, hit tool, power tool, both rate really well. He can handle premium velocity. He can handle spin. He can handle extreme changes of speed. He can take care of all of that. He can foul off what he needs to foul off until he's able to actually put a bat on a ball with quality contact and put it in play. So I like what he does. I personally don't know if I'd have him as the number one in the system. I'll get to that in just a minute, but I do like what he has, and obviously everybody else loves him, so there's probably just something that I'm missing there. Guy I do kind of want to make sure that we talk about when we're in Double-A here, Austin Wells, the catcher, 2020 first rounder out of Arizona. He actually was drafted out of high school in 2018, and then they drafted him again in 2020 as a draft-eligible sophomore. But lefty hitter, they think he's a guy that can absolutely give them great offensive value and stick behind the plate. Little bit of question about whether he can stick or not. I'll get to that in a second. But offensively this year, 304, 425, 568, 8 home runs, 9 stolen bases, and 125 at-bats. Doing really well offensively, especially in a world where the average OPS for a catcher is like 85 or 80. They're just not very good offensively. And that swing, it's a really smooth swing that can cover every part of the plate. So high, low, in, out, everything. I like that. He manages the strike zone really well. So not striking out too much, plenty of walks, things like that. They did work with him a little bit about being a little more aggressive with 2 strike counts. Defensively, that's where you have a little bit of question. So he's not a fantastic athlete. Doesn't have that quick twitch reactions. So he struggles sometimes to block pitches. Arm strength is below average. He has a good pop time, a good release. So it plays up a little bit. But like last year, he threw out 13% of base stealers. I think that if you had to move him out from behind catcher, he could play first base. He could probably even make it in left field speed-wise. He doesn't have awful speed for a catcher. He has actually decent speed for a catcher. Doesn't have awful speed for a baseball player. Decent speed for a catcher. So I think you could make it work at first base if you needed to, or again in the outfield. And then right behind him, you've got 2 righty pitchers, Luis Medina and Randy Vasquez. And they are interesting, kind of different pitchers. Luis Medina is just absolutely electric stuff. Fastball, lives in the upper 90s, sits 97, 98. He's hit 103 with it. He's got a curveball that when it's on is just a wipeout pitch. gets swings and misses. It's one of those hard, downward diving curveballs. Changeup is getting better, but the best thing about it is the velocity separation, and it disguises well arm speed wise with the fastball. His thing is just like command and control. So I think if he can land some of these pitches for strikes a little more often, he's going to stick as a starter. But if not, you can move him to the bullpen, and he can be a very, very effective late inning, if not a closer, just because that arm is absolutely absurd. And then that curveball, very good curveball. So a great 1-2 punch. Again, the changeup is good enough, needs to be, doesn't move a ton, but he has the conviction with it, and he disguises it pretty well. Control is his thing. And then Randy Vasquez, flip side of this, is throws a couple different fastballs. Has a 4-seamer, sits mid-90s. He can touch 98 with it. Has a 2-seamer that he brought in. Really like the 2-seamer. I think it has potential. It grades out as average now. I think it could be above average to maybe plus. But then he's got both a curveball and a slider, super high spin, like 3,000 RPMs on both of these. Curveball's low 80s, sliders high 80s. Changeup is 88, but it just doesn't have enough separation from the 4-seam to be effective. So, a couple different pieces. I see him as a number 4, number 5. He's got plenty of pieces. Again, none of them are amazing. But a guy that has tools, and if he can harness them a little better, absolutely can be a piece for the Yankees in the rotation. Just slow the changeup down a bit, and then polish. Do a little more work. Do a little more, get him more reps. Right now, he's 63 innings on the year, 2.73 ERA, 60 strikeouts, 21 walks. Doesn't always land everything for a strike, but, a 1-to-1 ratio of strikeouts to innings is one of those signs we usually have of a 4 to 5 starter. Again, none of the pitches are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they're all decent. They're not terrible. They're just not necessarily amazing. And so that's one of those things where we're like, okay, he's got a bunch of average to above average pitches. Strikes at about a batter per inning. We're looking at a number 4, number 5. But absolutely think he's got skills. Excited to see what he does. In just a minute, I want to get to the Double-A Scranton Wilkes-Barre RailRiders. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Built-Bar. You've probably by now tried the coconut brownie chunk Built-Bar. They just made that into a puff. So it's the coconut brownie chunk Built-Bar flavor you love, but in a delicious chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. And these are good for you. It's low calorie, low sugar, high protein, very delicious. And it's only here for a limited time. So you need to go to Built.com right now to make sure that you don't miss out. Because if you remember, what they do is they have the flavors they have all the time. They have the limited time flavors that are seasonal, and then they have the recurring flavors that are seasonal that they bring in and they bring out. They rotate those through, and then they have the limited time special things. I think this is one of the limited time special ones. So when it's gone, it's gone. So go order a box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Okay, Double-A Scranton Wilkes-Barre, 37-43 this year, and this is an interesting one because you've got a position player in your top 5 and a bunch of really good pitchers here. So Oswald Peraza is the other big shortstop in the system. Signed in 2016 out of Venezuela. Got a chance to do full season ball in 2019 at age 19. Obviously missed 2020. Yankees didn't have an instructional league. Came to 2021 and just breakout year in 2021. Went up to started off in high A, then went to Double-A. 79 games in Double-A, 294, 348, 466. And this is after high A. He went 306, 386, 532. 17 home runs combined between the two. So And it was something where they made a tweak and an approach change for him. The big thing was, hey, you're hitting too many ground balls. So what we need you to do is, like, you're making quality contact. You're hitting the ball hard. You're just hitting too many ground balls. So tweak the approach a bit, tweak the stance a bit, and boom, he went from highest ground ball rate to just about average. And now 242, 312, 420, 10 home runs, 16 stolen bases, and 231 at-bats. I think that offensively, his hit tool is going to be better than his power tool, but I still see his power tool as a 15, most likely a 15 home run thing, maybe 20, 15 to 20 home runs. It's probably what he's going to be at the MLB level. But defensively is where he kind of shines. He's not the twitchiest athlete, but he's got above average speed. He's got very good baseball IQ, very good instincts, very good reaction time. And so because of that, he can make all the plays that you need him to make. I actually like the plan of keep Oswald Peraza at short, and being in AAA, he'll probably have a chance to come up first. Keep him at short, move Anthony Volpe to second, and let that be your double play tandem for the next decade. Kind of reminds me of what the Braves did with Dansby Swanson and Ozzie Albies. They went ahead and moved Ozzie in the minors once Dansby came up to the big league team. So similar situation. Once Oswald Peraza gets called up and you decide to move Volpe to AAA, I think that's probably the point where you start working Volpe in at games at second so that you can have both these guys on the field at the same time. I like Oswald Peraza. I think he's the better shortstop than Volpe. Volpe is still the better prospect. I think Peraza is the better shortstop. So a little bit of a controversial opinion. Not everybody's going to agree with that. But then right after that, you've got a couple talented pitchers here. First one is number 4 prospect right-hand pitcher Luis Gill. He's actually came up and pitched in one game. He started one game for the big league team this year. 4 innings, gave up 4 runs and 5 hits with 2 walks and 5 strikeouts. So that major league stat line doesn't look great. And honestly, his minor league stat line this year doesn't look great either. 6 games, all starts. He's 0-3 with a 7.89 ERA, 21 2/3 innings, 15 walks to 31 strikeouts. But I think that his skills are his talent is better than his stat line right now. So 6'2", 185, not super heavy, but he has that pitcher's frame that you like to see with the wide base and everything. Fastball averages 96 or so. He was a little bit hurt last year, so his numbers look a little off. He doesn't look right this year either. Honestly, not quite sure exactly what's going on. But yeah, fastball 96. He's got a slider. I think it can be a plus pitch, which would give him 2 with the fastball. It's mid-80s. Not as much of that big horizontal sweep as you want, but still a good slider. The big thing for him is going to be the changeup. So he throws it in the low 90s. It's a little bit too fast. Doesn't get enough separation from the fastball. And then I think it needs to have more movement. So right now, with the fastball and the slider, if you need him to, he can be an effective late inning reliever, an 8th inning guy, setup man, do some high leverage stuff for you. I think he'd be good at that role now. If he can harness the changeup, and reportedly that's what he's been working on at the AAA level, that's why the numbers are so bad. He's not necessarily out there trying to win games. He's trying to get confident in throwing the changeup when he needs to. If he can figure that changeup out, I think he could be a number 3 or 4 for you, 2+ pitches, and then an average or whatever changeup. I think he can be a number 3 or number 4 for you. He just has to figure that out, and we'll see if he can get there. Right behind him, right-hand pitcher Hayden Wesneski, 6'3", 210, 33rd round pick in 2016 by the Rays. He said, nope, going to college. Yankees took him in the 6th round in 2019. Did a little bit of rookie ball, and then boom, pandemic ruined everything. So 2021 came in, went from high A all the way to AAA. Right now, dude's got 5 different pitches. So he's got a four-seam fastball that I really love. It's one of the better fastballs in the system, I think. I'm not quite sure if I'd call it the best one, but I think it's one of the better ones. So mid-90s, usually he can hit 99 with it. It's got a lot of like late sinking movement to it. He also throws a two-seam. He's got a slider that is, I mean, it's average to above average. Kind of has that sweepy action, but it's a shorter bit of a break. So it's not as it's not all the way across the zone like it's kind of in vogue right now. Curveball could be a plus pitch. A lot of slurvy action to it. Moves both horizontally and vertically, which is nice. And then the changeup. I think the changeup is something that he could improve a little bit. He throws it in the low 80s. So it's got good separation. But I think he needs to throw it with a little more conviction. And then there's a little bit of mechanical tweak that he's working on this season. He doesn't, and I talked to a college baseball coach recently about this, and he was talking about some of his guys and doing this, about how when he gathers to come to the plate, everything doesn't come directly to the plate. He has wasted motion towards the third base side before he comes to the plate. So it's kind of a matter of getting him to redirect and getting everything to come straight forward. But when he does, the stuff's going to look a little bit better. The consistency and the control is really what's going to be improved when he can get those biomechanical changes in there. So if he can work on the two-seam, if he can work on the changeup a little bit, and then just getting better with that command and that control, I think he's going to be a good number 4, number 5, a guy who can eat a ton of innings for you, and then come out and be in the bullpen in the playoffs and be useful for a spot start if a guy can't go, come in and throw 4 or 5 innings in the middle of a game if something bad happens, something like that. Really useful piece. Just needs to work a little bit on some of that, gathering his energy and coming straight to the plate versus being a little bit scattered. Last guy I kind of want to make sure I cover here, Ken Waldichuk, the lefty, 6'4", 220. And really like the changes that he's made this year. 5th round of 2019, did remote stuff, had a great year last year, went 34 innings to start the season before he even gave up a run. Ended up 4th in the entire minors with 163 strikeouts. And right now, 68 innings pitched. He's 6-2 with a 1.99 ERA, 101 strikeouts to 27 walks. So really kind of love it. And he's got tons of deception. Okay, so really unusual delivery. You got arms and legs going everywhere, and balls coming from a weird angle and all of that. And it works. Four-seam fastball sits 92, 93. It can hit 98, and it has some unusual action. It can carry in the top of the zone. Bunch of off-speed pitches. None of them are that great, but he's got a slider, which the bottom of the zone, it can kind of get some good depth to it. Can kind of get deep and on a hitter before it breaks. He's got a curveball that has a little bit of a slurvy action to it, kind of disguises or looks too much like the slider, needs to separate those a little bit. The velocity difference is really the only big difference there. The changeup, I think, is above average, could be plus. I like the changeup. I think the changeup needs to be a touch slower. And then he just doesn't necessarily have a true out pitch. He's got the fastball. It's a good fastball, but he needs to do some work to separate the slider and the curveball. He's done some of that this year. The slider has more of that horizontal sweep to it. It's obvious that that's been a focus point for the Yankees. They've been talking about this. And then he streamlined the delivery a little bit. Not enough to lose the deception, but he streamlined it enough where he's able to control some stuff a little bit better. So I think he's going to stick as a starter. And I like him. I'd like to see him get a chance to do a spot start sometime in a game coming up soon. I think of these 3 top 10 pitchers, Gill, Wesneski, and Waldichuk, I like him the most right now. I think Ken Waldichuk is the guy that I like the most right this second. And I'm intrigued to see what he does going forward. It's been a great week. I've got a bonus episode coming for you guys tomorrow. We're going through some potential trade deadline deals for Josh Bell with Josh Neighbors of Locked On Nationals. It's part 2 of our conversation we had on, I think it was Wednesday. And then next week, tons of stuff coming up, tons of stuff on this show. We've got draft previews. We've got futures game roster review. We're sitting down with the Yankees. We're talking to Stacey Gotsulias of the Yankees. We're talking Rangers with Bryce Patrick. We've got Jeff Ellis coming back on for some last-minute MLB draft news and notes, including our overrated, underrated guys in this draft. Futures game is next Saturday. We're going to go live on Sunday night for the MLB draft, Sunday, July 17th. So do us a favor. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe so you get notifications and know when we're going live. And just can't wait to bring you all this great stuff as we have this packed week getting to the getting to the MLB draft. But until then, this has been Locked on MLB Prospects.